Hey everyone! Today we're jumping right into the science of life itself. Yep, we're talking about biology. It's basically the story of, well, everything that's alive. From the tiniest cell you can't see to the giant ecosystems that cover our planet.
But look, to really get a grip on just how powerful biology is, we're not just going to talk about it. We're going to use it to solve a mystery. And this is a big one. A deadly 2,000-year-old puzzle that's responsible for more human deaths than any other disease in history. So stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll see exactly how biology cracked the case.
Okay, so before we can crack that case, we've got to know what tools we're working with. So in this first part, we're going to decode the living world. We'll get into what biology is and the incredible scope of everything it studies. You know, when you break it down, the idea of biology is actually beautifully simple. The name itself comes from two Greek words, bios, which means life, and logos, which means study. So it's literally the study of life. That's its whole mission, to figure out how living things are put together, how they work, and how they all interact with one another. So how do you even start studying all of life? Well, traditionally, we've broken it down into three huge foundational branches. You've got zoology, which is all about animals. Then there's botany, the study of plants. And finally, microbiology, which dives into that invisible world of tiny organisms like bacteria and fungi. Think of these as the three main pillars holding everything up. But things get even cooler with modern biology. It's like having a whole toolkit of specialized lenses. You can pop on the genetics lens to see how traits get passed down through generations, or you could switch to the ecology lens to see how a whole forest of organisms works together. Each lens gives us a totally different and much deeper view on the very same subject, life itself. Okay, so we've got all these ways to study life. But so what? Why does it really matter in our day-to-day lives? Well, in this next part, we're going to see how all that knowledge actually translates into real-world, tangible impact. Well, think about it. A solid grasp of biology isn't just for scientists. It's the absolute foundation for fields that affect every single one of us. We're talking about healthcare, right? And the agriculture that puts food on our tables, and even cutting-edge biotechnology that's creating everything from new drugs to clean fuels. All of it starts with the fundamentals of biology. And here's what's so cool. Biology does not exist in a bubble. It's more like the hub at the center of this giant, interconnected web. I mean, to really understand how your body gets energy from food, you need chemistry. To understand how a cheetah can run so fast, you need physics. To figure out how to feed a growing population sustainably, you even need economics. Biology is the thing that ties them all together. And this is the perfect example of that teamwork in action. A project as massive as the Human Genome Project, literally mapping out the entire instruction manual for a human being, was only possible because you had biologists, chemists, and computer scientists all working together. The biggest breakthroughs always demand that kind of teamwork. So that brings us to the really important question. How does biology actually work? How do scientists go from having a huge question, like that deadly mystery we started with, to finding a solid answer? Well, it all comes down to this powerful process, this engine of discovery. And that engine is the scientific method. It's not some magic formula. It's just a really logical, step-by-step process. First, you spot a problem. Then, you just observe everything you can about it. Based on what you see, you make an educated guess. That's your hypothesis. From there, you make a logical prediction, like, okay, if my hypothesis is true, then this should happen. Then you design an experiment to test that prediction. And finally, you look at the results. Now, let's talk about data for a sec, because this is super important. There are two main types. Qualitative data is descriptive. Stuff like, the flower is red. It's useful, but it can be subjective. But then you have quantitative data, which is all about numbers. Like, there are 12 birds in that tree. It's measurable, it's objective, and that's why it's the absolute gold standard for scientific proof. And when it comes to experiments, this right here is probably one of the most critical ideas to grasp. If you want to prove that one thing caused another, you have to isolate it. So you have your experimental group, like the plant that gets the special fertilizer. But you also need a control group, an identical plant that doesn't get it. By comparing the two, you can say for sure whether the fertilizer was what made the difference. All right. We've got our tools, we understand the method. It's time to go back to that 2,000-year-old mystery and put this entire process to the ultimate test. Let's solve the case of malaria. For literally centuries, this thing was a total puzzle. Way back, ancient doctors observed that people who lived near swamps got sick more often. They made a link, but they had no idea why. Much later, a treatment was discovered using quinine from tree bark, but still, nobody knew how it worked. The trail was pretty much cold until 1878, when a doctor decided to look at a patient's blood under a microscope.
And right there in the blood, he saw it, a tiny little microorganism he named Plasmodium. This was a game-changing observation, and it led directly to the very first real hypothesis in this whole mystery. Plasmodium is the cause of malaria. Just like that, step 3 of the scientific method was locked in.
But you know how it is in science, right? A great answer just opens up a whole new set of questions. Okay, fine. This little microbe causes the disease, but how in the world does it get into a person's bloodstream in the first place? Suddenly, we're right back at step 1, recognizing a new problem.
So, the detective work continued. It was time for more observation. A few years later, in 1883, a physician named A.F.A. King started putting together some really crucial clues. He noticed a clear pattern. People who used mosquito nets, slept near smoky fires, or just stayed indoors at night were way less likely to get malaria.
You see what's happening here? All these clues, these observations, they were all pointing to one prime suspect. This led to a brand new hypothesis. Mosquitoes are the ones transmitting Plasmodium. And that gave scientists a perfectly logical deduction to test, that if-then statement. If mosquitoes are the carriers, then we should be able to find the Plasmodium parasite living inside them. And you know what? After years of incredibly painstaking work, that deduction was proven to be absolutely correct. Scientists finally found the parasite inside the mosquitoes, confirming they were the vector, the carrier, that spread the disease from person to person. The 2,000-year-old mystery was finally solved. And once we knew how it spread, we could finally figure out how to stop it. So there you have it. That systematic, step-by-step biological method took us from a vague fear of swamps to identifying a specific microbe and its exact mode of transportation. It's just an incredibly powerful engine for turning mysteries into knowledge. Which kind of leaves us with one last question to think about. What great mystery will it solve next?